clear idea of how spring is changing in our part of the world. According to folklore, spring starts with the first call of the cuckoo. But it's the scientific study of a different type of bird that's revealing more about the arrival of spring in Britain today. Wytham Woods near Oxford has one of the longest-running bird studies in the world. More than 1,000 nest boxes have been put up for the great tits to nest in, and every detail of their breeding is recorded. It's possible to open each nest box and see the chicks inside. These are about 10 days old, and in another 10 days they'll fledge and leave the nest. Looking back at our records from the 1970s, we know that these birds will fledge about 3 weeks earlier than their predecessors. It's not just the birds that are being studied. Every part of this ancient wood has been under scrutiny for 60 years. So we know that great tits are not alone in bringing their breeding forward. Their cousin, the blue tit, is also busy feeding chicks earlier than before. And oak leaves are now appearing 2 to 3 weeks earlier than they did 30 years ago. And the little animals that feed on these oak leaves are appearing earlier too. Caterpillars prefer young oak leaves, as older leaves are harder and accumulate poisonous tannins, making them indigestible. But caterpillars seem to be keeping pace with the earlier leafing of the oaks. And juicy, soft caterpillars are the favourite food of hungry chicks. So the birds seem to be timing their nesting perfectly. If they'd waited any longer, this flush of caterpillars would have gone by the time their eggs had hatched. But how did the birds know? It seems that the parent tits assess the range and quality of food around them once they lay their first egg. Too little food, and they will delay incubating their eggs. But if food is abundant earlier, they can accelerate the process by incubating them straight away. Wytham Woods clearly shows that spring is on the move, shifting earlier and earlier in our calendar. After the break, we'll see how animals are moving too. The warm-loving hummingbird hawk moth is making a home in Britain. These hawk moths have to spend much of their day going from flower to flower, sipping the nectar, which is so rich in the carbohydrates they need to power their flight. And the Adelie penguin in Antarctica